Welcome back to the channel, folks. I'm Dr. Vishal, and one of the things I absolutely hated while being in medical college was to read research papers. As ironical as it may sound, the reason for this was that we have been taught traditionally to read anything which is important word for word and cover to cover. But when the thing in question is something like a ominous looking wall of text which never seems to end, it would literally make my eyes water when I would try to read everything and try to grasp everything. By the end of it, I would be losing my marbles and just pretty much giving up. I wish somebody would have told me the tips and tricks of reading published research in a much more efficient and smart manner, which we would be discussing today. So statistics have it that between 1994 to 2001, 400,000 papers have been published. If an average doctor these days has to keep up with what is happening in the world of scientific literature, then he has to read 17 papers every day, 365 days a year, in order to keep up with the speed of scientific publications. This is practically impossible. However, the downside of not reading publications are that one, you are losing out on the latest updates. Two, it is a career damaging proposition to not publish papers and not be up to date with reading publications. In addition, reading publications is not just an academic exercise these days, it is also fodder for a lot of videos like these which I'm making, a lot of blog posts, a lot of infotainment content which is out there, which can also turn into an extracurricular academic hobby exercise which can add to your personal brand and help you rise and shine in your career. So reading a published paper can have multiple benefits. However, the caveat is that you should be able to read it in a smart, efficient manner so that you can not just grasp it but also have a life at the end. So here are a few basic foundational mindset shifts which really helped me to understand how should I actually go about reading a published paper. The first mindset shift that really helped me was to treat published papers like we treat books or maybe movies or some television series. We don't really read a book unless we know what is written on the jacket, unless we've gone through reviews on Goodreads or we've googled the name of the author. Only then do we decide to invest time in reading a book. But when it comes to research paper, we don't apply the same logic. The day I started doing that, I realized that I am much more efficient in deciding which paper to read. So the first order of business is that decide beforehand whether this paper is worth reading or not. So in order to decide quickly whether you should read this paper or not, there are two questions that you have to answer. One, what is the type of paper? And two, why are you reading it? First, let us tackle what is the type of paper. Now not all types of papers are made equal. There are various kinds of publications that you will come across. Some would be case reports, some would be case series, some would be meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials, so on and so forth. The basic difference between primary literature and secondary literature is that primary literature is made of foundational research. It is much more detailed, has many open endings, cannot be really summarized clearly. However, it has original research. Whereas there are other kinds of secondary literature in which there are reviews, there are essays, there are summaries of various other kinds of research, there are case reports of one-off rare cases, rare occurrences and phenomena. There can be a light summary or a light description or a discussion of something which is much more serious to understand in the form of a primary published research. So if you have to decide what kind of paper you are reading, then you have to categorize them into primary and secondary and try to find out what level of detail are you really looking for. Which brings us to the second question: what exactly is the aim of reading a particular publication? Now there can be two possible scenarios. One is that you are creating your own research based on the research that you are going to read. For example, if you are submitting a dissertation, or maybe you are writing a thesis, or maybe you are doing a detailed medical publication at an international conference or a seminar, then you would rather be thorough through and through which each and every word and be up to date with the latest research. However, if it is for something which is less serious, like maybe writing a blog post, making a video like this, or maybe finishing a class project, or maybe proving, or maybe some run-of-the-mill activity in which you have to read publications as an exercise, then you might not want to dive deeper into each and every thought and nuance of that particular topic. So after you've decided why are you reading the paper, Next is the sequence of how should you read a paper. This is one of the biggest mistake that I was always doing, is that I would read the paper from the first alphabet to the last full stop in that particular order, and would waste a lot of time only to realize later that it was not worth reading at all. So generally a paper is divided into the following sections. First, you have the title of the paper. The title of the paper is similar to title of a YouTube video or maybe a title of a book, which in a nutshell, within a few words, tells you what the paper is about. The next is abstract. Abstract is a bigger summary of what the paper has. However, and good abstract will always have conclusion, so that at the end of the abstract somewhere you can find a one-liner conclusion of the paper. The next, what you will find are keywords. Not every paper carries them, but a keyword. And keywords can be helpful, can be not so helpful, because if the keyword is exactly what you have in mind, then maybe you will have a match and you will read the paper. However, one keyword can mean many other things, and maybe what you are looking for, you may not have a correct keyword in your mind, you may be unaware of such a word, then keyword cannot really come helpful. So keywords are not really important in my personal opinion. Next is introduction, after which is material and methods. Then there are inclusion, exclusion criteria, and then there are results, conclusion, discussion. At the end, there is something called as conflict of interest and sources of funding, which is followed by bibliography, or basically references. This is the structure of a paper, and generally this sequence is followed worldwide. However, when it comes to reading them smartly, I would not follow this particular sequence. What I would do is that first I would read the title, then I would directly go and read conflict of interest. This is mainly because many a times these days research is not just used for publishing research and coming up with new ideas and theories. At times it is also used as scientific marketing tools by pharma companies who want to sell a particular drug, by food companies who want to support a particular meal or a breakfast or some new product which they have come up with, by cosmetic companies who want to come up with a new idea and push another product. They would go the scientific publication route to base their judgments and eventually sell more things in the market. So if the scientific paper is funded by a particular company, then we can pretty much guess that things would turn out to be in the favor, and in my opinion it would be a waste of time to go over each and every nuance and then only to realize that everything was designed to work in a certain way and give a certain result. So first I would read the title, then directly I would go down to the conflict of interest. If that is clear, then I would go on to read the other parts of the paper. This is what I call the first pass of reading a scientific paper. By first pass, we mean that you know what kind of paper it is, why are you reading it, what is the title of the paper, who has published it, is there any conflict of interest, and maybe you can add one last thing, is the quality of the journal. Not all journals are created equal. There are some journals which have been there for a long time, which carry more weightage, have a more impact factor. Then there are some journals which are phony, which have articles which are published for monetary gains. They charge people. They basically target institutes, students who cannot get their papers published otherwise, and charge them a fees and come up with a publication which has all sorts of articles. So they don't carry that much weightage. So what kind of journal is it? Is it a phony journal? Will also decide whether I should actually give any time in reading the publication. So all of this is first pass of reading the published paper. Now once you've decided that yes, it is worth your time, starts the second stage, or I'll call this the second pass. This is mainly relevant for people who, like I said, are not going to base their future research on this particular paper. They are the ones who want to know the gist of it. They are the ones who want to just stay updated with the latest in their specialty, and also the ones who are going to turn this into other forms of infotainment content, I would say. For them, it is very important to understand the inclusion criteria, the exclusion criteria, and have some idea of what the results are and eventually what the conclusion is. Now, why are these things important? Because inclusion and exclusion criteria tell you a lot about what is the beginning of the research, what is the fodder for, what is the raw material for doing this particular study. The sample size is also important for the same reason. Imagine reading a study which you always had hypothesized about. You thought it was your original idea. You Google Scholar a particular idea. You found a published paper which has exactly what you had in mind with bright and shining results, and you go all gaga only to find out that the study was done on maybe 10 people or 5 people, and essentially it doesn't carry much weight. So reading the methodology, reading inclusion and exclusion criteria in specific, the sample size in specific is a must before you go any further into that study. So far we are discussing the second pass of study. So once we know the inclusion and exclusion criteria, we know what is the sample size, then we go on to having a brief understanding of what was the methodology. Then we can directly skip to results, try to find out if there are any facts or figures, if there are any fallacies in the results. And once we know that these results were obtained in a reasonably good manner, even if we don't understand each and every word and each and every meaning and possible outcomes of it, we are still good to go. We have understood the gist, and then we can move on to the conclusion. So far, I have stayed away from going any further into the discussion, the review of literature, and the bibliography, and so on and so forth. This would comprise the second pass and would give us enough information to base our opinion on this research paper. So far, whatever you are doing can be done in hard copy format or in digital format. However, I always prefer a digital format when it comes to reading papers. Why so? The answer to that question will take us to the third pass or the third stage of reading, which is directed towards people who want to know each and everything which is written in the paper. Primarily, they are reading primary literature, and are they going to base their future research on the study which they have made, the observation which they have made from this particular research paper. For them, I would say that it is always better to have a digital way of reading it. It has often happened with me that I have read a research paper thoroughly, but only in hard copy format. At best, I highlighted or underlined points, but most of the time it is not really helpful when you have to go back to those papers. Hence, when you read in digital format, you can press Ctrl F on a PC or have a find function. Pretty much all of the softwares which are necessary to read documents these days have a find function. PDF readers of all varieties and word processors and Mac and PC, everything. Ctrl F is I think by far the standardized shortcuts across the platform when it comes to finding a word. You press Ctrl F, put the necessary keyword that you are looking for, and all that word is highlighted throughout the paper. It gives you a very good grasp of what exactly is happening in the paper, and it is very relevant to the word that you are looking for. Many a times it can save you many hours of going through each and every word and trying to understand. So this is like the number one tool that I always use when I want to read something thoroughly. I press Ctrl F, I try to find out if the word that I'm looking for is there or similar words are there, and then I read those paragraphs, those phrases, and build my story and structure around it. The next helpful thing when you want to read such a paper in fullest of detail is, why I'm saying in digital format, is that you can highlight and have a summary ready in real time. You can do that in real time. You can copy paste your sentences, paragraphs, words, figures, and have them separately made in a document which you can refer to later. Because reading primary research is not just complicated, it is very time consuming. Many times this research paper runs into many pages. So you would not want to go over them again and again. At the same time, after reading many papers, you would want to do comparison of all these papers, and it can be really tedious to go back and forth. Hence, once you are reading the paper, everything that you like can be copy pasted into a separate table or a template. You will find a template in the description box. You can use that template as well, and you can have a comparison at the end. After reading 5 papers, 10 papers, you can have a comparison of all the titles, all the findings, all the conclusions, and base your dissertation or thesis upon it. So these are two tricks that I really love. One is Ctrl F, find whatever you're looking for, and second is copy paste and put them in a separate table. Once we have done that, we are in the third pass. We want to really dig deeper into the research. I would go and read the bibliography, the references. Now, references is like the equivalent of suggested YouTube videos by the YouTube algorithm. So basically what you are trying to read, you would like to know more and more about it. You would like to dig deeper and try to find out what others have been doing. Hence, this references is a good starting point for all other future studies which you would want to refer to. And each study can provide you n number of references and the chain can continue. So if you are supremely organized, unlike me, by the end of this habit, this practice, you would have a document or a folder full of all the papers that you've read, neatly organized in table format, or at least summarized in a way that you can refer to, skim through, have the links ready if you want to read the original paper again. That is why reading them in a digital format has many more advantages. So I hope by now you are less scared of reading research papers and are much more efficient. You have more tools in your mind on how to approach this never-ending looking piece of black and white paper, and you're not as scared and as unorganized as I was back in the day. If there's anything else that this doctor can help you with, let me know. Comments down below, let me know your thoughts. Share the video, spread the word, and I will see you in the next one.